Testing, testing. We are live. Our Community Commission meeting will begin in approximately 10 minutes. Again, thank you for tuning in to the Arts and Beautification and Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. We will begin promptly at 7 p.m. Thank you for joining in on the Reynoldsburg Community Commission. The meeting will begin promptly at 7 p.m. and there's plenty of room if you want to come here to City Hall and watch live here at City Hall. Community Commission meeting will begin in 1 minute. It's in Hollywood. You are welcome to sit up at any one of the podium positions up here. And welcome everyone at home and here in City Council chambers. We're going to call to order this Community Commission, our first live in-person meeting. Here we are on Wednesday, June 16th. I'm going to call to order. We have Chair and Co-Chair present for the Arts and Beautification Commission meeting. We are broadcasting live, and we will try and monitor as best we can, maybe to potentially answer some questions that are out there right now. In the meantime, we will go ahead and turn it over to Chair Rouvain.
Thank you. In our last committee meeting, we met with Jen Sheeks and some of the residents that she's been working with as far as arts they've been planning a number of initiatives, and so we were discussing how they are looking to enhance the arts presence in Reynoldsburg and how we can combine our efforts moving forward. Her group's primary goals are to find a performing arts venue space in Reynoldsburg, present ongoing outdoor presentations and productions, and create similar performances to something similar to the Short North Stage. After our meeting, it became apparent that our goals are very similarly aligned, so we're hoping to continue that movement. Also at that meeting, we met with Nicole Carter, Assistant Principal of Encore, and we're planning a site visit currently to discuss how the Reynoldsburg arts community could partner with the schools in a variety of ways, including venue and space usage. We discussed the possibility of doing some mentorship within the schools where we could take some of our professionals in arts and music and possibly team up with some of the students who are really focused in those areas. And working also, as we had discussed in previous meetings, with students to create visual art around town. Some of the ideas that were presented were to work with local venues such as Prost to host a variety of Reynoldsburg City co-sponsored events like poetry slams, comedy, short skit performances, and similar. The one other thing that we discussed was the proposed separation of the arts from the beautification components. And that would allow, of course, we all recognize that cleaning up Reynoldsburg and keeping it beautiful and litter cleanup and those types of things are critical and very much needed. But I think that it allows the community members to focus more in their areas of passion. So that's what I would like to propose tonight as well, that we separate those groups into two distinct operations.
I don't think that would be an issue. I know that because this is an official committee, that would have to be something that would ultimately go through council, but I don't think it would have to take 3 reads and massive amounts of legislation to go ahead and put through. But I will speak with the city attorney on that particular thing, if that is the will of the Arts and Beautification Committee. Originally, they were combined more for time's sake. So there are a number of people that are on different parts of this committee. Same thing with some of the other ones. So we're trying not to have 4 different meetings for 4 different commissions when it's the same 4 people and all 4 that type of thing.
Of course.
So, but that's definitely a thing. I am encouraged to hear of the partnership potential with Reynoldsburg City Schools. I know that they do have some of this space, so that's great to hear that there could be some partnership with there. And I think that
it also sounds very underutilized with some of the spots over at the Summit campus.
Yes, and anytime that we can use that, I think that'll be a good thing. In addition, it was nice to hear potentially things at Prost or any of our other local businesses, poetry slams or comedy shows, things of that nature. The comedy shows intrigues me, and no, I'm not going to do that. But that does intrigue me. Yet. So that'll be something that'll be interesting to see. Any other items from either of the two of you now that you're on camera and on stage?
Anything further?
No, nothing? Okay.
Other committee members? Questions? Answers?
All right. We do have a couple of other items. We were hopeful of trying it at a kind of a last-second thing addition is to bring over the Reynoldsburg Community Association to discuss a couple of potential events. For those of you that are unaware, we actually had the opportunity to have Reynoldsburg's first Pride event this past Saturday at Civic Park. And this Saturday, we are going to be having the second annual Juneteenth ceremony at Huber Park. And those are two events that some discussion has come about between members of council as well as myself about what the best interest or the best place for those committees. Are those something that the Arts and Beautification Committee would look at? Would that be something that would be moving potentially to the Reynoldsburg Community Association? Things of that nature. Just because of the logistics and the partnership with everything, it kind of fit within it. And this will be something that we'll also bring up with the Welcoming and Diversity Committee as well when we meet with them later this month. But we were unable to get anyone, I think, from the Community Association on the short notice to come out here tonight, but that was definitely something that we are looking to partner with.
I think we can absolutely make contributions in the appropriate areas, given that if it becomes a community association event, I think that would be awesome for them to drive that and then work with us for the like I said, for the appropriate.
Well, I do know that the Community Association is always looking for volunteers. They're always looking for additional help, and I think that one of the concerns that might be there is, adding 2 additional events, is that going to cause, either an economic strain or a personnel strain? Because again, we all know that these committees are volunteer-driven. The great pay and benefits that you all receive for joining in don't always, compensate you for the time that is out there. But that is one thing that I'm sure that we would have some support in that regard if they were to take on those additional events. So hopefully we can connect your individual committee meeting the next time, some members of the Community Association with their. They're a little busy right now planning that 4th of July parade that's coming up on July 3rd. So we have that as well. So hopefully we'll have some good conversations about that.
For those 2 Arts Beautification Committee isn't a great idea to help out, but I think if we're going to categorize, I think it's like a diversity committee who's committed to expanding diversity and expanding our city would be a really good option for that
Absolutely. So maybe we can try and inform them and get them as well. I do know that for Juneteenth specifically, that they do have a dance component that's going to be out this weekend. If you were able to, I had the guest from the West African Dance Company that will be coming out at various age levels, youth as well as adult programming that will be out on Saturday. So that's one of the reasons why when that jumped up to me is the different style of art. It wasn't specific to music, but the dance aspect of everything. But I think really it does hit a lot of boxes all the way around for everything. So hopefully we can have a good turnout for that. Any other new business other than kind of breaking apart this wonderful family of arts and the beautification aspect of things?
The only thing that was brought to me that I certainly said I would pass along was sort of a directive as what is the city able to do to directly implement ideas from ours and frankly all the other committees? What is sort of the path of travel for those ideas?
So what we would like to do now that we're meeting on a regular basis live is the idea would be that I would say probably to start off maybe on a quarterly basis, every 3 months at maximum, that much like what we did before is you would present your recommendations to council. So to give you an example, Traffic and Transportation made some recommendations at the last council meeting about improvements to Priestley Road, and some of those improvements haven't taken into consideration. Obviously, depending on what the scope and the scale and the economics of the situation are, that if those recommendations are made this year, then that would be something that would be able to be done in a budgetary sense that we could plan for implementation in 2022, as long as council also agrees with that, because they're the ones that will make those official recommendations.
So we're looking long scope at this. Is there any type of, I guess, short-term plan that, we could either work through the mayor's office or some other option if there was something that was, coming up quickly, like for example, the Juneteenth thing, if there was some, spectacular idea or a Pride, given that Pride Month is still in occurrence. So if there was anything along those lines, is there any sort of short-term turnaround type things?
Is depending, again, kind of depending on the economics of the situation, if it's something where it's more of ceremonial or, kind of an oriented of where it's an event space or something like that, we can always gather together and run it through that way. But depending, the rest of it would depend upon, the finances. So if you're looking to make recommendations about expending any kind of city funds, then it would be something that would take a little bit different of a track.
So is there,
Then you're looking at that point at 3 meetings at a council meeting, unless it's already budgeted. So the idea would be that for next year, if council wills it, if there's a potential to set aside additional funds for potential plans for the future, then that way you would have all of this stuff already kind of lined up for future events.
I guess I wasn't sure if there was sort of a small discretionary spending of sorts, that if we brought something to council that, there was some availability of, obviously not a major scope event, but something along those lines.
There's always an opportunity to ask council for money. I do it quite frequently, every meeting. That doesn't always mean that they're going to say yes.
Fair enough.
But if there is something that's out there, then by all means, yes, obviously we could do it. So to give you an idea, for an example, the Priestley improvements, one of the things that we had is a new stop sign with the LED lights that had been talked about. That wasn't originally budgeted for, but it was money that we did have appropriated out for our general fund for our streets and services. So we were able to use some of that money for the recommendations for that. So you can do something and again, move it along as fast as either business or council can provide.
Very good. Thank you.
So from the perspective of the effect, since we're proposing to separate the city, so in a meeting some months ago, you mentioned that most of the things with regard to planting, beautification, things like that went through Parks and Rec. Would we still, as a autonomous committee, need to go through the council, or would we need to propose things to Parks and Rec to make those changes?
I would suggest coordinating with Parks and Rec in that regard, because they would be the ones that would already have kind of a standardized plan of what's coming up. So obviously, the easiest thing was the litter campaigns and things of that nature. It's easier to coordinate with Parks and Rec with that, because they have the resources, they have the trash pickers, the garbage bags, things of that nature.
But it sounds like there's also some overlap there as well with the arts and beautification overlap.
With event space, and that would actually go more to Jennifer Clemens, who's the typical events coordinators. Most of the events that would fall under this would typically probably fall under what we refer to as city events. They're all events that are for the city, but in this particular case, there's some that are more parks oriented. So an event that is either specifically happening in the park, or an athletic event in our park is more parks and recreation, where if there's something else that, like our food truck rodeos, or if we're talking about arranging music for the farmer's market or something like that, that would more fall on Jennifer's side of things. So that's who, and I can help, my office can easily help coordinate with something. So if you have an idea, let us know, and then we'll connect the dots to the right people for that one. All right, the old business that is coming up is we do have this thing called the Tomato Festival coming up in the not-too-distant future. We are definitely working in the plans right now to get all of the final ideas together. We are at that contract stage where we have secured a majority of our, I guess you'd say, our earlier musicians and other acts all the way across. We also are trying to line up every event from that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to make sure that there's something going on. We had some contact today with different members of the arts community to help maybe contribute, or for vendors to sell different pieces of art, things like that in our artist area, in the community area. So we've done that. So we're moving forward with that. We're also still looking for volunteers. Hi, everybody. There's volunteers on our Tomato Festival webpage. You are able to sign up for a shift to volunteer. Anything from helping out at the parking area to the welcoming center, a number of other different options, Kids Center, and what are some of the other ones? And then other ones are just kind of random patrol and maybe some actual litter pickup at that as well.
What are the shift times, give or take, just so the public can hear that?
Typically, they're about 3-hour shifts, 3-hour shifts, so you would do from, say, 4 to 7, things like that. But if there's other commitments that you can either work longer, or if you can only be there for 2 hours, that would be something. Obviously, when it comes to, setting things up or tearing things down, the more people that are there at the beginning, that means that there's going to be less work later on. So everybody kind of, sets up the chairs and things like that. So for those of you watching at home, all 3 of you, so far, it's fluctuated 3 to 5, so we're not doing too bad. All of you that are out there for watching, feel free, and you can also log on to our the Tomato Festival login page under the volunteers, and there's a Sign Up Genius that you can see the specific shifts. And then there's other things where you can actually edit it and say that, instead of 3 hours, you can do 2 hours or something along those lines as well. So we're always looking for volunteers for that. That ceremony will be here before you know it. Believe it or not, we've got the 4th of July parade in just a couple of weeks. And then before you realize, it's going to be that time for the Tomato Festival. We have a great lineup of artists. We were actually going through today, getting some of the other products that are going to go along with the opening night ceremonies, as well as the Land Sharks, which is our lead act that night. And we hope to have some announcements after the 4th of July of all of the opening acts throughout the entire city that are going to be there. So we're going to try and focus on each one probably about every 3 to 5 days to kind of focus in on some of these local acts that are going to be coming and performing in case anybody wants to know who they are.
Great.
All right. So with that, if there's nothing else,
Do I get to bang the gavel?
yeah, you can, in just a moment, you can. So what we'll do is we will connect, again, with the Community Association, and we'll try and set up maybe a joint committee meeting with the Welcoming and Diversity Committee, and then your organization, and then if you want to reach out to Jen and maybe see if she can have a representative from her group as well.
Sure.
To have those conversations. And just for point of reference for all of you out there, again, watching, when it comes to budgetary items, the budget is actually already something that is on my mind for 2022. So the idea is that my hope is to actually submit a first draft of that budget at the by the second meeting at the absolute latest, the second meeting in November. So when we're talking about any kind of recommendations, I would probably put a recommendation deadline probably September, maybe that first meeting in October, if there are recommendations that might have some sort of financial commitment.
Now, would those be a written submission, or would those be something that we would come on to the?
That would be
meeting.
something you would present to council,
Okay.
and then from there, then we would kind of run the logistics to figure out, the who's and the what's and the whys and what
Great.
it would cost and things of that nature. And then again, that would be something that we can make those recommendations to council if they approve the budget for next year.
Great.
So I have just one more question about on the beautification committee. Would budgetary recommendations or requests that we make budget, or is that, I mean, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding everything that needs to be done.
So officially, they would probably go through Parks and Rec, but you would make those recommendations at the same time, probably, to Parks and Recreation, and then they could take that to the actual budget. But I think for the visibility to, I don't want to say claim credit, but to maybe go into more detail, because these are going to be ideas from your specific group presenting to council, and then we could adopt it through the Parks and Rec budget at that point in time. All right, and with that, I will let Ruvain go ahead and end this session of things, because I know that he wants to use the gavel, because who doesn't?
I mean, who doesn't?
All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So the Arts and Beautification session is over. Give us a few moments to transition as we move out to our Traffic and Transportation Committee. Come on down. I cannot see who's here, but I do know that we have 5 people here for it. So you're at the center chair. Yep. No, 2 more over. Yep, I think you're there. Sorry, I'm on the delay. All right, at approximately 7:18, we will go ahead and start our Traffic and Transportation Commission meeting with our new business. We had a meeting earlier today discussing everybody's favorite topic in Reynoldsburg, a roundabout at the 5-way intersection. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, Ken.
We were interested in finding out I just joined the Traffic and Transport Committee a couple of months ago, and it seems like a topic has been coming up about the roundabout at the intersection at 5 Points, which is 256, Livingston Road, Graham Road, Slate Ridge, and some other road.
256, Graham, Livingston, and then there's always, yeah, and I know exactly that's some other
Yeah,
road.
that's-
It's the road that we go to get to Culver's.
Yes, it's
At
the other
least
one.
that's what we do.
Anyway, I had looked up, I'd looked at some of the old presentations that have been given, and one of them was a safety funding study that was done by ODOT back in 2019. And I had just wondered what the progress of that was, or the outcome. So I looked into that, and turns out the application was never submitted. And so I stretched a little bit further, went out to the gentleman at Jacobs Engineering. They're the ones who did the study for ODOT under a general services contract. And he said that at the time it was rated, scored at a very high 37, which for ODOT was pretty much a guaranteed funding. But there was a reluctance on the part of the city to proceed with that, just because of the feelings about roundabouts in general, and that being a very public area, I guess. So I just wanted to meet with Mr. Dorman, who's our new service director, relatively new, because I know he was not around during that time. I wanted to find out how much he was aware of the situation, and if he knew of any action that was going on about it. I think what we determined was that it's still kind of a bit of contention between the citizens and council, and it's not really any urgent matter right now, because I guess funding is not going to be coming until, or even become available till 2025. Alex Maestros is the man from Jacobs Engineering. He did say that obviously we're going to miss the next round of funding applications, which is in August. But he said if we're looking at 2025, we might want to consider something within the next 18 months as to readdress that. And that would just be through ODOT. They're the ones who would pay for it. So we would just have to approach them and tell them that we might be interested again. So there was another question from one of the other committee members right before this meeting, and he asked about a couple other areas, about Bryce and Main Street, and Bryce and Taylor, or Main and Taylor Street, as areas for roundabouts. And I think the main issue that 5 Points is coming to the forefront on this is because ODOT's commission. ODOT is the one who commissioned that study, and ODOT's the one who would be putting up most of the money in that case. So I think that's what's driving that. I wouldn't imagine anything's going to happen on the other two for quite some time.
I'll kind of give a quick little update on Bryson, Maine, specifically. As you know, that for those of you that are there used to be a brick wall that got hit a number of times. And by the way, the Traffic and Transportation has now jumped up to 7 viewers, and the reason now 8. And the reason why is because you said the magic word roundabout.
Roundabout.
So we know that that's how the viewership has gone up. I know that at Bryson, Maine, the intersection is not even, and that's why we've had a number of cars over the years apparently trying to run through the brick wall at one point in time. So the city is actually looking at some engineering sketches about what it would be like to actually straighten that out. The question about whether or not a roundabout could go there is, again, a question that the ODOT would have to give a lot of answers to because of the fact that it is the national road. But that actually has been talked about, as has the one at Main and Taylor. And also, even a little bit further east than that is the area across from the Department of Agriculture, close to Summit Road. With the new developments that are going out there, is that also a possibility? So those are the 3 that are kind of floating out there right now as far as those particular potential roundabouts. But it's early stages. ODOT is obviously very busy working on repaving everything on Main Street all the way across out to throughout the entirety of Licking County. But as far as the roundabout at the 5-way, I think that obviously when it was brought up before, there didn't seem to be a lot of it was some mixed support from the community, from the Traffic and Transportation Commission before, so I don't think it was really brought up too much more after the initial meeting that we had with our city engineer from EMH&T. But obviously, I think revisiting the topic is not a bad idea, especially if we're looking at something where, we have an 18-month window to gather information from community members, to start figuring out, the preliminary engineering cost estimates, scoring for safety purposes and things of that nature. So that is something definitely we can get that information out, and perhaps maybe the commission would be open to in the future having some sort of an open like a town hall, and hear residents come in and discuss those possibilities. And I think that depending on what, how much traction the idea gets out there, we all know that roundabouts are either loved or hated depending on who the person is. But I think that at least the conversation is a worthy one to have, and one that I think that we can do. And if the commission would like to do that, if they would like me to start setting up some potential meetings and things of that nature to have kind of some good community discussions on that, I'd be happy to arrange those.
I'll speak with the rest of them.
Okay.
And see what their feelings are.
Yeah, just let us know on that one. And I'm sure that once this topic is out on social media, I'm sure we'll have some great feedback from social media as well. But I do appreciate you taking the time to meet today. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be out for the entirety of the meeting, but I'm glad you were able to get some good information and kind of get an idea from the original.
It was very informative.
Yeah, from the original submissions. As you kind of mentioned, Director Dorman and myself, neither one of us were here at that point in time. I know that I had spoken to the previous service director about the potential for it, and then circumstances beyond any of our control kind of happened, and then the transition between the different administrations and COVID last year, I think that's why a lot of it was placed on a back burner. But I'm sure that this will be a topic that council members will want to hear from their community about, as well as the rest of the public.
Yeah, that was kind of my concern too, is that I know that the previous service director left kind of abruptly right at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And administration has changed since then, so I wasn't sure where everybody stood in this at this particular point.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
But, yeah,
Start asking
now-
questions.
now we
So
know.
now we're still at 8 viewers, so apparently, I haven't seen the comments yet, but I'm sure that they'll
Should
be
I say
fun.
roundabout again?
Yeah. Hey, 17. No, just kidding. Now, we do have some other updates, and you actually have a unique perspective on some of this. Now, I know that are you located by where the stop sign is, or have you seen any
I
kind of
am
different behavior?
Right at where the stop sign is.
Okay. Has it kept anyone in your family up late with the flashing lights?
No, actually, you can barely see it. I mean,
Okay.
it's very subtle.
I mean, that
They're
was
sort of
honestly.
directional, so
Yeah,
it's
the,
not
the,
really-
the concern was really is like how bright would those things be? And I've driven there in the evening, and I have not noticed I didn't feel that it was blinding, but at the same time, depending on where the angle is, I didn't know what it was going into any of the local homes, but we have not heard anything
No,
officially.
I mean, we would be the exact ones it would be, because it's.
Okay.
it's
Have you noticed any difference on that particular thing at all, as far as, I know it's been a couple of weeks, so I know when everything was new, maybe it was more efficient, and as opposed to now, things have kind of gone back to a normal, or what it had been?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that it's making that much of a difference. I think the main problem with these stop signs on Priestley are not that people can't see them, which the flashing stop signs are great for visibility, but it's that some people just don't care. And those are the ones who are also causing the speeding problems, because overall, there's not that much of a speeding problem on Priestley. I think some of the studies were like, they're just slightly above speed limit of 25. But then you get the occasional person that comes through going, 60 miles an hour down a residential street. They're obviously not stopping at the stop signs.
Yeah.
And those are the same ones that are just blowing through. So, and that's on a pretty regular basis. So I think we've said before, the only solution is enforcement. And I realize that's a hard thing to do, because there's just so much resources and a lot of streets, and 27 miles of streets in Reynoldsburg. So.
And I saw a post earlier today, and it actually, it was talking about people on Rose Hill using the middle lane as a passing lane. And I was actually on Lancaster probably 2 weeks, actually it was right after the Pride Festival, and I was driving back, trying to cool off in the air conditioning. And, I was going the speed limit, and it was that area where you transition from 35 to 25. And as I slowed down, I had not one but two cars go around me on Lancaster because of the fact, and then in all the usual way it goes is we all got to the same red light at the same time, no matter how fast we were all driving. So go figure. But no, I understand. So one of the things that we'll try and do is, again, continue to rotate our enforcement in that area. But like you said, there's only so many officers and so many times that we can be there. But we will try and get them out into the residential areas specifically. I do know that there are other improvements set for that area. There's another set of stop signs that we are discussing about putting at Corey Cliff Drive.
Oh, yeah.
Corey Park, or is it Corey Park or Corey Cliff?
Corey Park.
Corey Park. Corey Park Drive, and then we also have crosswalks that are on tap to be installed into that particular area at Windrift and Corey Park Drive as well as some of the striping that had been mentioned. So those are things that are all kind of on tap to be put into that area. So the stoplights just happen to be the first ones to get in with everything.
You know if they're just doing striping crosswalks across Priestley, or are they actually putting in ADA ramps?
I believe they'll be putting in ADA ramps.
Because I think that was one of the concerns was they kind of like fall within the driveways of people over there on the west side. So that probably was a reason why they weren't there in the first place.
Yeah, that's our Director Dorman has looked at that, and that's one of his concerns as well, is to make sure that we have them, and then it becomes a question of where do you actually have them placed? Because again, the way it's very awkward where the driveways are.
Yeah.
As far as having something cross, away, and so he's looking into that with the engineers to figure out the best placement for it. While we're on the topic of Priestley, that is one of the roads that is being worked on. And for those of you that live on Priestley, you notice that obviously not only were parts of the right-of-way, but also the driveway were also taken out. But I believe as of 2 days ago, I know the north side of all the curbs had been replaced. I have not driven to see if everything on the south side had, but I know that the weather has been convenient enough that I think that a majority of it probably could be. It's actually the way I'm going to go home today, so I can take a peek at that. But then the rest of the driveway will go in, as well as the sidewalks. And there are a couple of other areas of town as well. Virginia, Lennox, and Taylor Mills Place, Taylor Mills Drive. They actually just scraped all of the asphalt off in the last day and a half, so they'll be moving on to the next phase there, as will some of the other areas. We are also already looking at our roads program for 2022. I do know that Canada Court and Cuthbert Court have made that list. They were the first one, or the last ones that we had to remove from this year's list, so I know that they will be the first two that will be up on next year's, as well as other ones that we're kind of evaluating as we go through. Our hope is that we're able to kind of broadcast by the end of August, early September, that we'll be able to have kind of a 2-year plan of what the next 2 years worth of roads are going to look like, with the exception of we have no idea how the budget will work out. A lot of it is based upon the amount of revenue the city generates, as well as some of the other things that come about, permissive taxes, gas tax, and things like that. And so the idea is that we'll have a block of roads that we would like to do, and then depending upon how much the money is, what is the maximum number of roads that we can do given the budget that we have. This year, with all of the bells and whistles and the grants that we have gotten, we are spending $7.9 million on roads this year alone. My goal, hopefully, depending on if the budget continues to perform as what we are looking at, is to potentially even grow that closer to 9, maybe possibly even $10 million of roads. There is a major road project next year. It is East Main Street Phase 2, everything from Jackson to Wagner. That is the one project that will be going on next year. However, that is not near as expensive as some of the other projects that we've had for Main Street. So a lot of residential roads next year are on tap to be taken care of. So it's going to be a really residential heavy. And then obviously we know that we've had discussions about Wagner Road. We're in the process of getting legislation to be able to present before council at our next meeting in June to start that process with the aim of beginning construction and improvements on Wagner Road in 2023. That's not that far away. It'll be here before we know it. That will be phase 1, starting from Main Street to Priestley, including a traffic light at Priestley, and then phase 2 will begin in 2024, which will be from Priestley to Broad Street. And that will allow for potentials of sidewalks and multi-use pass on both sides, as well as lighting, sewer, gutter, things of that nature to worry about any kind of water flow and things of that nature, as well as some of the safety precautions for that as well. So those are the big things for the roads program, in addition to some other things that we hope to work on with additional funding that we are hoping to receive from the America Recovers Act that will allow us to work a little bit as well as our road program, specifically our infrastructure, which is not traffic and transportation oriented. But the idea is if we're going in and we're tearing up streets to work on sewer and stormwater to help some of the flooding issues in our older neighborhoods, then by all means, then we also need to make sure that we fix the roads on top of it after the fact. So that does fall into everything. Any other questions? Does anyone in the audience have any particular questions, thoughts, comments, anything like that? Absolutely, yes. That's what we hope to have out probably by the end, I would say, I would like to have it out in August. We just have to wait and make sure that we're evaluating. But I do know that Broadwind is one of those. I actually met with the residents on Broadwind on I guess it would be on the western side of everything, on the Hannah Ashton side, within, I would say, probably about 2 weeks ago. And then obviously that would continue across over to the other side. So that's what we are looking at. That entire neighborhood area is one of those, all the way over to the Berkey entrance as well, has been something that we have gotten a lot of conversations on. So those are definitely areas that need to be addressed. It's just, again, it's one of those things, I would love to be able to do all of it right now, but we're working towards it. But yeah, those are areas that I've heard the most about. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. We've got a lot of good things going, and we're working on some roads and everything else. So, all right. Is there anything else?
I don't believe so.
All right. So our next meeting is going to be June 30th at 7 p.m., and this will be the other committee meetings. This will be the Welcoming and Diversity Committee meeting, as well as the Military Recognition Committee meeting. This will be our first Military Recognition Committee meeting since our Memorial Day ceremony at the Memorial Plaza on the corner of Bryce and Main, which went along amazingly. So we want to thank the Military Recognition Committee and the American Foreign Legion, the VFW, the RPD, everybody that was there, even former Mayor Bob McPherson was able to join us that day. So it was a great event all the way around. And again, we have our work cut out for us for the welcoming and diversity with some of the conversations we had earlier this evening. So with that, all of you at home, feel free and talk about roundabouts on social media so we can get some good feedback. And we will all see you at the next
Start a
meeting.
roundabout forum on Facebook.
I'm sure that there probably is one already just created.
There might be, yeah.
All right,
By the
thanks,
time I get
everybody.
home.
We'll have a great night.